In one of the most tense and awkward interviews I've ever witnessed, TDE's co-president, the son of the founder, Top Dawg, called in to confront his artist, Reason, and Reason's claims that the label was at fault for certain mishandlings around the release of his new album.
You're a manipulator.
I know she's
You're a manipulator. You're lying. Like, all I said on this podcast was my only issue is being consistent, and I have not been allowed to be consistent.
It very quickly turned into a shaming session directed at Reason.
Hey, T-Real, can you name me 10 Reason songs right now? You from LA. You a LA native. Can you name me 10 Reason songs right now?
No.
Whoever's fault it is for Reason's shortcomings and whoever's more petty for bringing behind-the-scenes drama out to the light, it's very clear that TDE is a weird place right now, at least a lot weirder than we thought it was in its heyday. So what the hell is going on? What's up, y'all? Devon here again for Obligatory, bringing you another weekly roundup of music news, just like we do every Friday. Today is August 11th. We're also going to be talking about the new Insano album announced by Kid Cudi. Open Mike Eagle's coming out with some new music, and we got a handful of RIPs to give out to some pretty historically significant artists. But let's get back to TDE. I have to ask, did you know that Reason was dropping an album today? Did you even know he was planning on dropping an album this year? Were you like me and you only knew about it because of this interview? And why would any TDE artist be dropping into relative obscurity given the prominence and the heritage of the label itself? On one hand, you have artists like Schoolboy Q, Ab-Soul, J-Rock, who have been there since the beginning. They are TDE, but they also feel semi-retired in a way. Like, they're probably going to release new music at some point. We still want to hear albums from them. I don't see them going back into playing the industry games that are necessary to really thrive in this space. And so on both sides of this, it kind of feels like there isn't this huge appetite to release albums from those guys. And then you got some more recent signees, some younger, fresher blood that's a little bit more out to prove itself. That would be Doechii and Ray Vaughn. Ray Vaughn, I'm really not sure about because he got on the label before Doechii did, and Doechii's got more motion going for her at this current time. Now, Doechii, she seems legit. She seems like the real deal. She seems like she could be a star and a really good artist. But to be honest, that's going to take some time. If she's really to develop into a star, you know, anything in resemblance to what SZA has gone through, it's going to take time. I think people forget SZA was signed to TDE 10 years ago this year. And so this really didn't happen overnight, and it's probably not going to for Doechii. And it's definitely not a guarantee that she's going to grow to be the caliber of artist that SZA has. And then you got some guys on the label that are just chilling. Like, this seems like the best place to be on the label if you're Isaiah Rashad or you're Sir. Like, really talented, but they're in the prime of their career. People want to hear this music, and I think this is music that the label can get behind and push properly. And then you have this smattering of artists that are seemingly in no man's land. Like, maybe Ray Vaughn is headed here, but this definitely feels like where Reason is currently at, along with Zachary and Lance Skywalker. And then you have an artist like SZA, who frankly seems to be keeping the lights on at TDE as their #1 artist, especially since the departure of Kendrick Lamar, which has obviously left kind of a weird atmosphere around the label entirely. The fact that he left for greener pastures somewhere to kind of own and operate his own label and situation goes to show that he's trying to get in the same business that these people got in off of him. Record labels function very much like venture capital firms in that so often one or a few cash cows are subsidizing the bankroll for the entire roster. And that's a tough place to be if you're one of those non-priority artists and the label's pinching pennies around your release because you don't make them money. And it's a hard place to be when you are the one bringing money in for everybody and you are just simply an employee here and you don't even really always get to hear the final version of your album before everybody else does. So with Kendrick gone and SZA now releasing an album that for years she didn't know when it was going to come out, and other TDE artists at one time or another having something to say about the label, all being capped off with this pretty ugly and public confrontation between Musa and Reason, it's very apparent that TDE is on some sort of an eventual decline. But the question begs itself, is it on the verge of an implosion? And would it be if certain artists were to find their way out in the coming years? That's something I'm anxious to see, and I'm really wondering what y'all think about all of this, and if you would be interested in a deeper breakdown in the timeline and the dissenting factors as to why TDE has been struggling and why it feels like it's even on the verge of an implosion in the coming years. That's definitely a video we could make. Just want to know if y'all are interested in that. But let's move on to something else. Kid Cudi is set to finally release his upcoming album Insano on September 15th. At least that's what the streets are saying. This is very much a rumor that's been floating out on Twitter and just like online. But as of right now, I'm not entirely sure of the date, even though maybe we'll get a confirmation here eventually about it. Open Mike Eagle, on the other hand, is officially releasing a new album called Another Triumph of Ghetto Engineering, with features from Blue and a bunch of other artists, production from Kelly Chris, Kenny Siegel, and you can pre-order the vinyl right now if you want. Now for some tour news, some sad tour news. It wouldn't be another week of this without some sad tour news from me. Paramore is canceling the remainder of their US tour due to Hayley Williams' illness. I'm going to read some of the posts that she shared here. It says, "Hey everybody, we just got off the stage in Seattle after speaking with our team and my doc. I know that trying to finish this tour now is going to come at a detriment to my health. My lungs are just not healing quickly enough to keep up. It got a little scary tonight." Now, we've been talking about it for weeks and months on this show that it's been very difficult for artists to tour right now for a myriad of different reasons, and health concerns are one of the more common reasons that come up. Another reason that I personally have yet to see, I didn't even know this was an issue, but tour bus shortages are apparently a thing. Danzig had to postpone 2 dates of his tour because he couldn't get a tour bus. I mean, if it ain't one thing, it's another trying to go on tour right now, especially if you're just some average artist out there trying to make a name for yourself. Happy Sundial Day. I gotta say, the new Noname album is out. It's her first in 5 years. It's something I've been waiting a long time to hear. I, of course, want to know what y'all think down in the comment section if you have thoughts. In another video we just dropped, we recently talked about this album and 4 others that are slated to drop this month that could be very special. Of course, I want to know what your thoughts on the album are if you've already heard it. But I was really interested to see what the cover art for this album would look like. She was holding on to it for some time, and then finally this week, we saw it a couple days before the album release. And it turns out she tabbed Frank Dorrey for the cover art, who is the surrealist artist from Linden, New Jersey, who primarily uses the PixArt app to create his work. Beyond your thoughts on the album, I'm wondering what you think of this album cover. Now, before we get out of here, we gotta say rest in peace to some pretty legendary artists. We'll start with DJ Casper, who lost his battle with cancer at the age of 58 years old. DJ Casper is the creator of the world famous Cha-Cha Slide, which I have done at so many dances, weddings, company parties. My dad's a DJ. I've done this dance so many times and played it at so many different places. And everybody knows it. Everybody loves it. It's a very easy dance for everybody to do and get involved with. And that's why it's been so big. Robbie Robertson passed away this week in the comfort of his family at the age of 81. And he was best known for his work with The Band, who backed up Bob Dylan in the 60s before heading out on their own. Robertson also had a long collaborative relationship with filmmaker Martin Scorsese and also worked on the soundtracks of Raging Bull, Casino, The Departed, Wolf of Wall Street, The Irishman, and yes, Martin Scorsese's upcoming film, Killers of the Flower Moon. Sixto Rodriguez, the singer-songwriter who was the subject of an Oscar-winning documentary titled Searching for Sugar Man, and who I always thought kind of looked a little like my old roommate Brandon, has passed away at the age of 81. Rodriguez lived in obscurity after flaming out early in the US, only to find success in South Africa and a stardom that he was later unaware of. Rodriguez's legacy would take off back home after the singer and songwriter became the subject of this documentary, and it won an Oscar. John Gosling, the former keyboardist of the Kinks, dies at 75, and Lil Tay, the internet sensation child rapper, had a post come up to her social media feed saying that her and her brother passed away. The details here were murky to begin with. People close to the situation were not confirming her death. The authorities where they live were not notified about her death, and the post didn't seem quite right in the first place. And now the family has come out and said that their account was hacked and that they didn't post this. We already know they have some very weird family dynamics in the first place. It's part of the reason she's even a relevant figure to begin with. So let's just leave it at that. With that said, I got a list of new albums coming out very soon this month and in the coming months. Next week, we're getting albums from Russ, Genesis Owusu, Osees, and Hozier. Later this month, we're getting a spelling album, Buck Meek, Danger Mouse, and Gemini. And September just looks like an awesome month all the way around, completely stacked. So there's a lot of music I'm excited and looking forward to hearing. And that's it for this week's episode of our weekly music news show. Again, we do this every Friday, so I will be back again next week with more news. So until then, thank y'all for watching and peace out.